Okay, guys, so I thought we would do a quick little review of Act 2 before you take your quiz. I'm just going to try to hit the high points and not go super into detail, just so you can kind of refresh your memory before you take the quiz. So, Act 2, Scene 1 starts with Brutus, and so this entire act, all of Act 2 happens on March 15th, so it's all on the Ides of March. So we're on like the big day where everything's going to happen, and Brutus has already he's still kind of contemplating Cassius's offer from a month before in Act 1. And he kind of realizes that the only way to stop Caesar is to kill Caesar. And even though Caesar hasn't really done anything yet, he compares it to killing a snake before the snake is hatched. So not even giving it the opportunity to do anything wrong. So Brutus's servant Lucius comes in, gives him a letter that one of the ones that Cassius has forged, and Brutus has been getting them this whole month. But when he reads this one, he decides he's going to act and he's going to join the conspiracy. And that's because they tell him to speak, strike, redress, which is really similar to what his ancestors did when they basically like ran the last king of Rome out of Rome. So he decides he's going to do what they did and get rid of Caesar. So then the conspirators show up. Brutus says that he's going to join them, but he denies Cassius's suggestion that they take an oath because he believes they shouldn't have to make an oath to each other. They should just do it because it's the right thing to do. Brutus also says that they shouldn't invite Cicero to join the conspiracy because he won't do what other people tell him to do. And then he also says that they shouldn't kill Mark Antony. So Cassius wants to kill Mark Antony as well as Caesar, but Brutus says no, it would look too bloody. Antony is just a limb of Caesar. He's not really a danger to us if Caesar's not around, and we don't want to look like a bunch of murderers. We want to look like we're purging Rome of tyranny. We don't want to look like we're the tyrants, just murdering anyone who gets in our way. They also decide that they should invite Caius Ligarius to join the conspiracy, and Brutus says that he'll be the one to recruit him and that he'll bring him to Caesar's house later because they're all going to show up at Caesar's house and convince him to come to the Senate so that they can murder him there. Before Caius Ligarius shows up and after the rest of the conspirators have left, Portia, who is Brutus's wife, starts questioning him about why he's been so distant lately and why he's not being himself, and she basically guilts him into promising to tell her what exactly they're up to. So he will let her know what their plan is. Caius Ligarius shows up. Brutus convinces him in like 2 seconds that he should join the conspiracy, and they both head off to Caesar's house, which is where Scene 2 picks up. So in Scene 2, Calpurnia is begging Caesar not to go to Senate because she has been seeing a lot of strange omens. She's been having nightmares that have been waking her up where she starts screaming out that they're killing Caesar. So that's a little bit of foreshadowing. There's also been lots of other weird stuff going on, including a lioness giving birth in the streets, the graves yawning and yielding up their dead. So dead people are getting out of their graves. I don't know if that's like a zombie thing or like dead bodies are just like kind of emerging from the ground. Not sure. There's fierce fiery warriors fighting in the sky. And she basically had a dream that all of the Romans were like bathing their hands in the blood that was spewing from Caesar's statue. So basically, like, she thinks that he's going to be murdered and the Romans are going to be happy about it. And so Caesar tries to kind of brush this stuff off. But ultimately, he is pretty convinced because obviously he has been really superstitious lately. And he even sent one of his servants to go have priests perform a sacrifice, and the priest told him not to leave either. So even though he kind of tries to brush it off as like, oh, I'm only doing this because you're scared, Calpurnia, I'm not scared. He pretty obviously is kind of scared, and he agrees to stay at home and not go. But then Decius shows up, and Decius has already said that he would be the one who would convince Caesar to come, even though they're kind of questioning whether, with all of his recent behavior, he's going to come out. And Decius is able to kind of reinterpret all of these weird events that have been going on. So basically, Calpurnia's dream of Caesar's statue bleeding and the Romans bathing their hands in it, he says that it's going to be a sign of how Caesar is going to be so loved by the Roman people for providing for them that they will be desperate to get any kind of souvenir of him. So that's what they were doing, bathing their hands in his blood. And Caesar's like, wow, that's actually like kind of good. And then Decius also says that the Senate was planning to crown Caesar today, and if Caesar doesn't show up because he was afraid because of his wife's nightmare, that they're not going to give the crown to some guy who's so easily swayed by his wife. And Caesar's like, you're so right. I'm going to go. Calpurnia, don't you feel dumb? Which is hilarious because Calpurnia is 100% correct, and if he had listened to Calpurnia, he wouldn't be in the situation he's going to end up in Act 3. So all of the other conspirators show up, and Caesar's like, oh my gosh, all my friends are here to take me to Senate. This is amazing. Come on, guys, let's all go have a drink. We'll chat, be just like friends. And Brutus is like, yeah, like friends has different meanings. So he's talking about like as in like having a likeness of being friends, but in reality not being his friend at all. And so kind of like what Brutus said earlier, they're not going to conceal themselves or be sketchy. They're going to try to hide their plans behind friendliness. So that moves us into scene 3. Scene 3 is super, super short. So Artemidorus has written Caesar a letter warning him that all of his friends are planning to kill him. Obviously, except Mark Antony. And so he writes him a letter literally listing all of the conspirators in the exact order that they joined the conspiracy. So it seems like these plans that they have aren't as secret as what they thought they were. So it seems like a lot of people know about exactly who's involved and what they're planning to do. So he plans to give this letter to Caesar when Caesar walks past. Now, what's important about this is that Artemidorus says that if Caesar doesn't read the letter or doesn't get the letter, fate will have determined that Caesar should have died. Now, he doesn't attribute it to choice, but I think once we see what really happens, especially in Act 3, we'll be able to have a better gauge of whether it was fate that Caesar was meant to die or whether it was his poor decision-making that led to his death. So that leads us into scene 4. So in scene 4, Portia is super nervous because she's waiting to get any news from Senate about Caesar being killed, because obviously Brutus has told her, so she knows what's going on, but she's really nervous about it, and she's getting kind of erratic, and she's bossing Lucius around but not explaining what he's actually supposed to be doing, and so he's like, I don't know what you want me to do, you're just telling me stuff, but you're not telling me what I'm supposed to do there. I'm really confused. And so she's just being kind of short with him. And part of her problem is that she has been let into the secret because she wanted to be. She begged to be let into the secret. But now she feels like she can't keep the secret. She feels like she needs to confide in someone, but there's no one to confide in. So she's just really, really struggling to be able to keep this secret. So the soothsayer ends up walking past her, and she tries to ask him what's going on, but he isn't there. He's heading there because he's planning to warn Caesar. And so unlike Artemidorus kind of treats it as, if Caesar doesn't get this letter, if this letter doesn't keep Caesar from being killed, then fate has decided that Caesar must die. The soothsayer kind of says, I am trying to beseech Caesar to befriend himself. And so I think the soothsayer looks at it more as Caesar's choices that are going to lead to his downfall, as opposed to Artemidorus, who thinks they're more going to have to do with fate. And so the soothsayer heads off to go talk to Caesar, and Portia just basically tells she tells Lucius basically just to go and say hi to Brutus and tell her and tell him that that she is happy, and then come back. And that's the only instruction that she gives. All right, so that takes us all the way through Act 2. So all of that is, again, just a build-up, helping us develop those themes of fate versus choice a little bit more that started in Act 1, and also just building up the tension as we head into the real climax of the play, which is Caesar being killed. So this is all just kind of rising action right now. Um, I mean, there's really not much else to say except I guess just paying close attention to the choices that people are making right now, because a lot of the choices that have been made in this act are going to have a huge influence on what happens in Act 3, especially the choice to not kill Mark Antony. A lot of the choices that Brutus made will end up, not maybe not a lot, definitely that one will end up coming back to haunt the conspirators. So that kind of gets us through this little review of Act 2. Good luck on your quiz. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.